art is dead. A bold statement, right? But what if, just what if, art was never truly alive in the sacred way we imagine? What if it was always a story we told ourselves? What is art? We begin inevitably with the definition, because even rebellion needs a rule to break. In ancient Greece, the word for art was techne. It didn't mean expression or beauty. It meant skill. It is the root of the word technique. And the Romans used ar, which meant pretty much the same thing. Craft, mastery, a way of making. But these days, art means something you don't understand until a man in a turtleneck tells you it's worth more than your house. Back then, being a great artist meant being a great technician. In an age without photography or even oil paint, mastery was measured by your technique, the ability to make the unreal appear real. Leonardo da Vinci wasn't just painting angels and Madonnas. He was dissecting corpses and designing helicopters. Michelangelo? He sculpted the Pieta and also engineered fortifications for Florence's military. These weren't mystics. They were the intelligent problem solvers. And when they had the time, they worked on lighter problems, like how to create a realistic image of a princess on a two-dimensional surface. They produced maybe 1 to 6 works a year, because mastery, not volume, was the point. So what happened? Quite a bit, actually, but most of it we will save for later chapters. For now, let's focus on one thing, the part that matters for this video. The beginning of our story coincides with the height of Western imperial aggression, exemplified by the carving up of China. Under Britain's dominance, other Western powers were effectively invited to participate in what was nothing short of a plunder. By the late 19th century, the economics of art had undergone a profound transformation. The patronage system, once dominated by the church and aristocracy, gave way to a dispersed network of merchant or bourgeois buyers. Though individual merchants lacked the vast wealth of the aristocrats, their numbers made up for it. This democratization of art consumption created a new kind of demand, not for singular masterpieces meant to adorn cathedrals or palaces, but for a steady supply of pleasing, purchasable works suited to the drawing rooms of the upwardly mobile. Artists, in turn, adjusted to this new marketplace. Claude Monet would go on to produce over 2,000 works, and Paul Cézanne roughly 1,300, averaging an astonishing 27 to 32 paintings per year. 5 times more in contrast to the old masters, who often worked at a slower, deliberate pace. This shift in output reflects more than just a change in style or technique. It signals a redefinition of the artist's role. No longer a servant of the sacred or the sovereign, the artist became a supplier in a cultural marketplace, crafting beauty for a broader but less rarefied clientele. Pablo Picasso was neither the first nor necessarily the finest of his generation, but he was unquestionably the most famous. When he arrived in Paris as an unknown, he entered the orbit of Leo and Gertrude Stein, literary patrons who became early champions of his work. Their support marked the beginning of his ascent. His dealer, Daniel Henry Kahnweiler, shaped the trajectory of Cubism with precision. Kahnweiler didn't just sell paintings, he sold prestige. By restricting access to Picasso's work and aligning it with intellectual circles, he turned the artist into a brand. It was part business, part mythology. Picasso too understood this game and played it brilliantly. He embodied the media persona of the tortured genius, embraced scandal, and blurred the line between artist and spectacle. His interviews, scandals, and self-portraits became acts of performance, anticipating a media age where narrative often eclipses the object itself. Picasso became one of the first living brands in art. As tabloids began to track artists like celebrities, their personas gained market value. With Picasso, popular art wasn't just about the painting. It was about the man, the myth, and the machine behind it. He sold not paintings, but also his signature. His name was the product. Picasso was extremely prolific, producing an estimated 170 paintings or 2,000 works in general per year. He produced 150,000 works in total. Enter the unlikely hero of our narrative, a man in disarray, undisciplined, alcoholic, and volatile. And yet, somehow, he came to represent the pinnacle of American artistic genius, Jackson Pollock. His paintings looked like accidents, canvases covered in drips, splashes, and frantic gestures. There was no center, no subject, no clear intention, just chaos. And yet, this mess was declared a masterpiece. Critics called it revolutionary. Museums called it genius. And the universities taught it. And the public split. Some called it brilliance. Others called it nonsense. But either way, the message was clear. This was the future of art. After World War II, many young artists found themselves excluded from the scene. The yardstick of technique had vanished with the rise of cubism and modern art. It no longer mattered whether you could produce beauty or demonstrate skill. Instead, ambiguity and chaos reigned. With no clear standard left to aspire to, a generation of creators felt demoralized, left behind by an art world that no longer cared how well you could paint. And only much later did the curtain lift, revealing the twist hidden in plain sight all along. The CIA had funded it all. Through front groups like the Congress for Cultural Freedom and elite institutions like MoMA, the CIA quietly sponsored a group of artists, Pollock among them. They were chosen because they were the worst in a way. Abstract expressionism wasn't just art, it was Cold War propaganda. Not bullets, but brushstrokes. Not persuasion, but confusion. A showcase of American freedom, unfiltered, wild, and incomprehensible, set against the discipline of Soviet realism. We only know this because, years later, journalist Francis Saunders uncovered the story through declassified CIA documents and published it in her 1999 book, The Cultural Cold War. Later, the agent in charge, Tom Braden, boasted about it, and Donald Jameson, another agent, confirmed it on record. Pollock became the proof that America was so rich, so free, so extravagantly unbothered that even its losers could become legends. Meanwhile, Soviet artists labored in lockstep for state approval and got worthless slogans in return. This wasn't just subversion, it was demoralization disguised as liberty. Art was a lie. And the critics, the curators, the academicians, they didn't just play along, they built their careers on it. They told us we were too dumb to understand it, that we lacked the taste or the intellect. It wasn't that the art was empty, it was us who were blind. And here's the most chilling part. What if no one had told us? What if the CIA's involvement in Pollock's rise had never been exposed? What if the funding stayed secret? We would still be here, nodding solemnly in front of his paintings, pretending to grasp the brilliance. We would still assume some elite group of tastemakers, collectors, and critics saw something profound we could not. And we, the public, the amateurs, would feel stupid for not getting it. It must be valuable, we'd say. Look how much it costs. It's not just that Pollock was overhyped. It's that we were all ready to believe it. What if the same logic applied to those who came before? What if Gertrude and Leo Stein, those tireless promoters of Picasso and modernism, had their own reasons beyond aesthetics? It must be important, we'd say. They sell for millions. And we would believe because we were already conditioned to give in to gatekeepers, academicians, and newspapers. Modern art history may not have been shaped by painters, but by agents, patrons, and intelligence networks who fed them, promoted them, and constructed their legacy. What if Peggy Guggenheim wasn't just a patron of the avant-garde, but a cultural architect with her appointed ideological mission? What if a small group of people believed that power doesn't come only from politics or finance, but from cultural dominance? With enough money and organization, could they decide what is valuable and what is not, what is beautiful and what is ugly, and write history as they pleased? We were lied to once, but was it only once?
In 2021, this piece by Amani Lewis sold for more than $107,000. 2.5 years later, this same painting sold for $10,000.
Overall, the spring auction season fell short of its lowest target. The combined estimate for the three major auction houses ranged from $1.2 billion to $1.6 billion, while the actual take was $1 billion.
Know about the art market is that it's tiny. Despite its prominence in cinema, literature, and the news, the majority of the market is composed of a small number of dealers and auctioneers catering to an exclusive list of ultra-rich clientele.
The art market may be small, but it's still bigger than zero, just enough to launder ego, status, and sometimes money. Charity, sadly, hasn't yet overtaken art as the go-to performance of virtue for the rich and emotionally unwell. Not that there's anything wrong with making things, useful or useless. Beauty exists, sure, whether carved by hand or found in nature. But more often than not, it's just another currency in the marketplace of attention.